Hi, welcome back to the second video in this series featuring the QNAP NAS and also the Seagate IronWolf hard drives. Now in this video we're going to be setting up our QNAP NAS with basic settings in it, creating a user account and also doing the file sharing. So we'll get the drives installed, set up file sharing, get basic NAS access, which is what it's designed to do. However, just before I get into that, we'll take you onto the computer screen to do that, of course. But just before I do that, I wanted to point out that I forgot to show the drives being inserted and how the drives are fitted in this. So what we'll do is just have a quick look at that so you can see how the drives are fitted. And then in future videos, we'll go into doing containers. So we'll probably do Home Assistant or something like that. If you have any preference for a particular container that you'd like me to install, then leave a comment down below in this video or in the unboxing video, and I'll review it and see what we can do. So let's have a look at the drives now. So here we are with the NAS. What we'll do is just remove the front cover by sliding it to the left and then pulling it forward. So that's how easy it is to remove. And what I've done is already inserted some drives in here, but I'll take them out and explain how they actually are fitted in the drive cages. So what we do is just press the lever down and pull it out, and there we have the drive. Now, as you'll see, this is not the Seagate drive, just in this first slot. So this is slot 1 at the left hand side. This is a Western Digital SA500 and it's a 500 gigabyte 2.5 inch SSD drive. Now the reason I decided to go with these SSD drives, well, in the first slot only, so just in the first slot, is to have this with the operating system and any containers or QNAP applications installed on this drive. And then the data drives, I'm using the Seagate IronWolf ones because of the higher storage capacity on those. The drives are inserted. There's on the back, there's markers for 2.5 inch and also 3 inch drives. So there's markers on the back. It's very faint. So there's 2.5, and then that one there, hole there, is for a 3.5 inch. So what you do is just line up the drive over the screw holes and then use the small black screws, which are in this bag here. And the small black screws are for 2.5 inch drives only. So what you do is just line it up and then just screw the 3 screws, so it only has 3 screws per drive, and you line those up and then just screw them up. Also, when you're lining up, you have to remove the plastic from the end of the drive cage there. So it has a plastic strip either side, so they just pull forward and then unclick. So there's 2 of those, one either side, and you have to remove that on the side where the actual drive is being fitted. So the one at the other side, which is blank in this area, you can leave that one in. So I just left that one in. As you'll see, just clicks in, but you have to remove that before you can actually mount the drive in there with the screws. Okay, so that's that one done. So we just put it in there and slide it until it clicks firmly. As you'll see, it's now clicked in and the lever just moved upwards. So then in slot 2 and 3, if I remove slot 2, here we have the featured Seagate IronWolf drives. So I've used 2 of these in slot 2 and 3, so 1 in each slot, of course, and these are the 3.5 inch 4 terabyte Seagate IronWolf model ST4000 VN006 drives, and these are rated for NASes, the IronWolf range. And as I said in the previous video, these were kindly donated by Seagate, so thanks again to Seagate for donating these. And to mount these, all you do is remove both plastic strips either side because the drive fits the whole cage. And then what you do is line up the screw holes, and again there's 3 screw holes what fit the drive in. So you just put those 3 screws in, and for this, for the 3.5-inch drives, you use the silver screws, and there's like 16 screws provided there. So those are the silver screws what you use for 3.5-inch drives. And then once you've screwed the drive in place, you then put the plastic strips back on, and they just help hold it into place as well. So that's how easy it is to fit the drives. So I've done the same with drive bay 3 as well. So we just put drive bay 2 back in, and they do slide in really easily, and then that clicks. So we've got the SSD in drive bay 1, the Seagate Iron Wolf in drive 2, in bay 2, sorry, and also in bay 3 we've got the Seagate Iron Wolf. And then bay 4, I've not used that for the time being, so I'm just leaving that blank. So that's how you mount the drives into the drive cages, and then we'll just put that cover back on. And as you can see, the magnets pull it into place and it just locks in. But you can lock it, of course, with the switch on the side, which you just slide up and then it locks that cover on. So what we'll do now is get the operating system, so QNAP QTS. So we'll get that set up. If it needs updating before we start setting it up, we'll update the operating system as well. And then what we'll do is get file sharing, folders set up and so on. So let's get to that now. So here we are at a blank web page. So I've just opened up my internet browser. In this case, I'm using the Brave internet browser. Now, what I've already done is, as you'll notice earlier, I inserted the drives into the QNAP NAS and then powered on the device and left the device for about 15 minutes before we went any further. What we first need to do is obtain the IP address for the QNAP NAS, and I did this by logging into my Unify network controller and looking for the device. So it noted it down as QNAP NAS, and I noted down the IP address ready to type in to the browser. However, if you're using a different router, of course, just log into your router control panel and you should be able to find the QNAP NAS device listed. What you can also do is install it via the cloud using the application. So as you'll see on screen at the moment, I'm showing you the QNAP label which is on the side of the device, and there's a QR code which you can just scan so that you can download and install the app from your regular Play Store, and you can install it via the cloud. However, in this example, I'm just doing it locally so that we don't have cloud access to it for the time being, but we could enable cloud access, of course, if we wanted later on. So once you've obtained your IP address and typed it into the address bar at the top, you will then be presented with the QNAP warranty service. So all you can do is click close on that, and then from the Start Smart Installation, click that button. Then with the Specify Firmware Version window that appears, you can keep the current version, or you can click on Check for Update. Now it's saying that the current firmware version is up to date, so we can now proceed by clicking the Next button. Then what we need to do is give our NAS a name, and in this case it's got a name already defaulted in there. So what I'm going to do is change it to NAS 03, as this is my third NAS on my system. And then for the username, we'll create a username, and in this case we'll call it temp. And for the password, we'll type in a password, and then in the confirm password box for verified password, we'll type the password in again and then click next. Then it will ask you to set the time zone, and in this case the time zone is correct. So if it isn't, just select the arrow and choose your correct time zone. Then once you've done that, you can click next. And for the configure the network settings, you can either obtain an IP address automatically by DHCP, so this will pick it up from your router, or you can use a static IP address. Seeing as your NAS is accessed from many different devices, I would recommend setting a static IP address, so just tick the box to do that, and then for the interface that appears, give your IP address a static IP address that you can remember. So in this case I'm going to be using 192.168.1.10 in this case. Subnet mask, you can leave that as it is. Gateway the same, and for the DNS server just type in your same IP address that's shown for default gateway, which should be the IP address of your router. In this case it's 192.168.1.1. For the secondary DNS server you can leave that as it is, so it's 8.8.8.8, and that's the Google DNS server, so you can leave those as they are and then click next. Then for the firmware update settings, when firmware updates are available, I would just select do not automatically update and do not notify me, as it's probably best to update your firmware and check for firmware updates yourself manually when your NAS is not being used by your users or family or whatever, just to make sure that you're not updating it when users are connected to it. So select do not automatically update firmware and do not notify me. However, if you want notifications or you want it updated, then select the appropriate option. But in this case we're selecting do not update and do not notify. So once we've done that, we'll click next and then click apply to apply the settings. And then it's saying warning, initialize the system, clears all drive data, do you want to proceed? So we'll proceed by clicking on initialize. Then as you can see it's applying settings, and what your NAS will do is apply the settings, restart probably once or twice, and you'll hear it beep a few times. I would give it probably 20 minutes, let it settle down, and then you should be able to log back in your NAS automatically. You will now see that after restarting and setting itself up, it has now presented us with the congratulations screen. So what we can do is click go to NAS management. Then we can log into our NAS, so with the username test and our password that we created earlier. We're then presented with the data and privacy. So what we'll do is click continue, scroll down to the bottom and click continue again, and here it's now loading and has loaded our QNAP QTS desktop. So what we'll do is in the top left corner with the 3 lines, we'll click on this and keep clicking until our desktop has brightened to full brightness and allows us to select various options. So now automatically we have the storage and snapshot window, and we have the welcome window on top of this. So what we'll do is just click skip, and then what we'll do is set up our data volume. However, just before we do this, we'll, for the system data collection agreement, we'll go down to the bottom and it's saying, do you agree to share system data with QNAP and its connected business partners? So we don't want to share data with them, so we'll click no. And here we have the storage and snapshot screen again. So what we can do is create a data volume. So this is the volume where we store all our shared files, streaming media files and so on. So what we're going to do in this case is install our volume on hard drive 2 and 3, which are the Seagate Ironwolf hard drives. So what we'll do under no volume is select the icon with the plus in it. Then what we're going to do is create a RAID 1 volume. Now with the RAID 1 volume, what it does is copies data to drive 2, but also at the same time it will mirror it and copy the data to drive 3, so that you always have 2 sets of data on 2 hard drives. And of course it's the same data on both hard drives. So if one hard drive fails, you can take it out and replace it with a new one, and it will automatically repair itself from the existing hard drive with the data on it. However, if you prefer to use other different RAID types, then you would select those yourself as you wish. But for this case, we'll select static volume, which is the third option, then click next. Then what we'll do is select our two drives. So in this case, it's 3.5-inch SATA hard disk drive 2 and also SATA hard disk drive 3, which are our Seagate Iron Wolf drives. So this will be the drives that we're storing the data on, and as you can see, RAID type is already selected as RAID 1, so in that case we can click next. Then under the configure option, you'll see there's a volume alias and it's showing as data volume 1, so we can leave that as the name for our data volume, so we'll just call it data volume 1 as it is and click next. Then with the summary we can click finish, and it's saying all the data on the disk will be erased. As there's no data on there, the brand new disk, we can click OK. While that's doing, I'll just close these notification windows in the bottom right corner here by using the X just to clear the desktop. And there we go. So we'll just wait for this volume to be created and then we'll proceed further. Now, as you can see from the screen, our RAID environment is being created, so it's creating our RAID 1 volume, and at the moment it's saying in the status ready and it's synchronizing. So all we need to do is just let it synchronize, which can be done in the background. And what we can do now is go and create some shared folders. So to do this, we'll close the storage and snapshots window. Then what we'll do is go into control panel. And before we do that, we'll just hop into the bottom right corner and we're saying that an update is available in the App Center. So we'll just click on that link there. And as you can see, we've got Help Desk, which is available for update. However, I don't tend to use Help Desk, so I'll remove it. If you want to use it, you can just update it. So click Update, but in this case, I'll just remove and click OK. And then for QLog Center, we'll just click on Update for that and wait for it to update. As you can see, it's now updating. And as you can see, it's now updated. So we'll close the App Center. However, just before we do that, again, this is where you would install your apps. So you would select and search for your apps using this App Center window, which is available by clicking the App Center icon, which is this squared one here with the little white squares in it. So we'll just close the App Center. So to create our shared folders, what we do is select File Station from the desktop. So it's the orange colored icon here. This will open File Station 5. And as you can see, we've got a recycle there. So what we can do is delete the recycle and then delete permanently and click OK. Selected items will be permanently deleted. Yes. So to create our shared folders, as you can see, we've already got a public folder here. Now that's set up by the system and it can't be deleted. However, you don't have to use it if you don't want. So what we can do is create some root folders on our data volume. So if we select data volume 1, click the dots at the side and click on create a shared folder. Now we give our folder a name. So in this case, I'll call it video. And that's the only thing we need to do in there, and click next. Then what we need to do is allocate our users to it. As we only have one user at the moment called test, we'll grant them read and write access to it. So as you can see, it's already ticked the RW box for read and write. So we'll just click next. Then what we'll do is untick enable recycle bin. However, if you want your files put into a network recycle bin, then leave this option ticked. However, I don't tend to use recycle bins on the network, so I'll untick this and click finish. Then what we'll do is click do not show this message again and click OK. Now that's created a shared folder called video in our root drive for data volume 1. So what we'll do is go ahead and create some more folders. So again, for data volume 1, select the 3 dots, click create a shared folder. In this case we'll call it media. Next, read and write for test is enabled, click next, untick recycle bin, click finish. Then what I'll do is quickly create 2 more folders. Then as you can see, we've now got 4 shared folders called data, media, music and video. And of course public, which is the system created folder. So now that we've created our shared folders, we can go ahead if we want and put files in the shared folders. However, I'll just show you how to create another user account should you want to add another user and allocate them to shared folders. So to do this, we click on Control Panel, then under Privilege in that section, we select Users, and then what we do is click on Create and create a user. So here in this username box, I'll call it Share, and then in the password, I'll paste in a password, and in the verify password, I'll also paste that in there. Then at the right hand side, we have shared folder permissions and also user group. Now for user group, if we click edit, what it will do is allow you to put the user in the administrators group or the everyone group. Now what I'm going to do is leave it in the everyone group. So we'll click close on that. And then for shared folder permissions, we'll click edit. I want to allow this user account called share to access all of the folders and be granted read and write access to data, media, music, and also video. For public, we can untick that because we're not going to be using it. So that will untick them from the public user group. So now that we've done that, what we can do is click on close and then click on create. And as you can see, we now have the user test, which is our username logged in as, into this web control panel, and then we have the user share that we've just created. Of course, if you want to add more folders later on, you can do, and all you do to allocate the users to them is click on the shared folder permissions icon, which is this little icon here. So it's the second one in from the right hand side, and there you can change the user permissions depending on what user you want to access which folder for. If you want them to just allow them to read files and not write anything to the files, or change files or write new files to the drive to the folders, then just click on read only for those particular shared folders. So we'll just cancel that. So that's how you create users and allocate them to your shared folders on the QNAP NAS. So we'll just close this control panel window now, and here we are back at the control panel and file station, storage and snapshots, and app center. So at the top here you'll see that there's various symbols. One is for search, another one is for running background tasks. So if you click on those, it will bring a drop down window. As you can see, it's still synchronizing the RAID group, so we'll just let that proceed. There's about 5 hours left, but that doesn't matter, we can just leave it running. So we'll just click on the icon again, so background tasks, and it will close it. The next one is for external devices. We don't have anything connected, but if you connected, for example, something to the USB port, then that would show up there. Then for the bell, we have, that's for notifications. The next one is our user account. So here we would log out, change the desktop background and so on, using desktop preferences, personal settings, changing our password and so on. The next one is for notice board. So we have 4 notices. In the app center, it's saying QLog Center has been installed and is ready. So we can close that by clicking X and get rid of that and clicking OK. Then we can close the notice board. The next one is for dashboard. So that gives you the status, system health, resource monitor, for example, how much CPU and RAM is being used, and status of your Seagate Iron Wolf hard drives. So we'll close that And then the next option is for cloud that we're not logged into. So hence why it's saying you're not logged into your QNAP cloud. So that's basically how you set up. Thanks for watching. Take care. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.